Welcome to Out of Touchstone. We've come to the end of 1995. It was a year that saw Touchstone only release 6 films, down from 10 films that they had released in 1994. And while it wasn't exactly a banner year in the history of Touchstone, it did show them what made Touchstone popular. And most of the films that they released in 1995, I think they tried to go outside of that little bubble that people expected and didn't have much success. The only moderate success in terms of box office for the other 5 films was the teen drama Mad Love. But that's being very generous to call it a hit. But now we're at the holiday season, and Touchstone is banking on a sequel to a popular film from 4 years earlier. They've reunited Steve Martin, Diane Keaton, and the rest of the cast to give us Father of the Bride Part 2. 4 years after stressing out about being the father of the bride, George Banks has a new life experience to cope with, the midlife crisis. After his daughter and son-in-law tell their parents they're going to be grandparents, George thinks he's too young to be a grandpa and tries to prove he's still young and hip. Then he's thrown for a loop when he and his wife find out they're going to be parents again. Instead of thinking he's too young, George now thinks he's too old to be a parent. While working on this episode, news broke that Diane Keaton had passed away at the age of 79. A few years ago, Vulture magazine interviewed her for a retrospect on the career of Nancy Meyers, who wrote the Father of the Bride movies. And in that interview, Diane Keaton remarked that the Father of the Bride movies were some of her favorites of her career. And after watching both of them again, it's easy to see why. Now, most cinephiles will credit The Godfather and Annie Hall as the de facto Diane Keaton roles, but for me, I discovered Diane Keaton in the movie Baby Boom. One of my sister's favorite films growing up, so I think I saw that movie at least once every 1 or 2 weeks. Her acting in that film really showed off the way she could balance chaos and charm, humor and heart, all in one frame. Through the 2000s, with films like The First Wives Club, Something's Gotta Give, and The Family Stone, she continued to show just how versatile, fearless, and funny she was. An interesting piece of trivia that I found out after Diane's passing is she directed the Belinda Carlisle music videos for Heaven is a Place on Earth and I Get Weak. It's hard to imagine we'll never see another new Diane Keaton film. The film she's left behind, the characters she created, will never fade from the video shelves. Well, looking up the cast to see what other notable films they were in, I realized Steve Martin has a pretty good Touchstone Pictures filmography. Obviously, Father of the Bride, but he was also in the 1994 movie A Simple Twist of Fate, and later on, he's in a few other films in the late 90s. But I think given his history with Disney overall, I think it's only fair that we include him and induct him into the Touchstone Court. Given his history of working at Disneyland, I think it's only fair that we induct him as the magician. The rest of the main cast from Father of the Bride returns as well. Diane Keaton plays Steve's wife. Kelly Williams and George Newborn are the expectant parents. Future Oscar winner Kieran Culkin plays the soon-to-be uncle. Martin Short and B.D. Wong return in the role of funny characters from the original that have to be shoehorned into the sequel. Eugene Levy shows up briefly in a subplot that easily could have been cut from the film. The box office hadn't been too kind to Touchstone in 1995. That's a point that we've hammered home pretty well on this series, but with Father of the Bride Part 2 releasing between Thanksgiving and Christmas, Touchstone executives were, I think, justified in their hope that the family audience would come out to see the film, and that's exactly what they did. Father of the Bride 2 debuted at number 2 the weekend it was released on December 8th, 1995. The rest of the top 5 were Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, Casino, GoldenEye, and the debut Pixar film Toy Story was number 1. Father of the Bride would go on to have a box office total of almost $77 million. Needless to say, that was a lot more than the other 5 Touchstone movies' box office take combined. There's a condition in Hollywood that I like to call sequelitis. Sequels are nothing new to Hollywood. The first credited sequel came out in 1916, but in the 90s it just felt like any movie with the slightest of profit margin got a sequel. Instead of expanding stories, studios were just rehashing them. Familiar titles became comfort food for audiences. Safe, predictable, and easy to market. If you like the first one, chances are you'd like the second. Hollywood saw that pattern and thought, why risk something original when you can just add a 2 or a returns or another to the title and call it a day. It was the cinematic equivalent of preheating leftovers. Now, Father of the Bride 2 at least wasn't the worst of the offenders. And the pregnancy angle at least did take the next step in life's journey, but I can't help but think that there was some Hollywood executive in a board meeting somewhere going, you know, if one pregnancy is funny, 2 is comedy gold. While audiences may have been okay with a second helping of the same story, what did critics think? Well, over at Rotten Tomatoes, Father of the Bride Part 2 has a 54% rating with critics and a 60% rating with audiences. So, not great, but not terrible. We always like to look back and see what Roger Ebert had to say about a film in his reviews. Father of the Bride Part 2 is not a great movie, but it is warm and fuzzy and has some good laughs and a lot of sweetness. He gave the film 2.5 stars. So what's the out of Touchstone final verdict for Father of the Bride Part 2? Well, like we said, they weren't trying to reinvent the wheel, and they didn't need to. Just making a feel-good family comedy for the holidays. So while this isn't going on the must-rent shelf, we're going to put it on the solid value shelf. Pairing it with the original film would make for a good weekend double feature. That's a wrap for 1995. I don't know what we're going to do next. I don't know if I want to go straight into 1996, if I want to look at the overall film world of 1995, or maybe head down to the basement and check out the Hollywood Pictures vault and see what was in there in 1995. But pretty sure that if you click that subscribe button, ring that bell for notifications, whatever we end up doing, you'll be one of the first to know. Until then, the tapes are rewound, the video store is closed, we're out of Touchstone.